everybody, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to Tarot de Marseille on Earth. This is a series on my channel where I am taking you along with me as we learn Tarot de Marseille with Tom Benjamin's book Tarot on Earth. So at this point, if you are hanging along with me, I give you major props because this book does get pretty cerebral, at least it did for me. And so I expect that you are quite tenacious. And I appreciate that because I saw this all the way through. And so I'm sharing with you how I experienced this particular section. But if you are on this video, then you should have finished, as of the last video, you should have finished Interlude 5 on being right, all the way through Lesson 9, putting it together, and the interlude called On Doubt. So that was from page 252 all the way to 313. And if you're not there yet, that's cool. Just turn off this video, finish it through, make any notes on your experience so you can share them in the comments down below because I really like hearing how this was for you. And then press play again when you're ready to go. So you don't have to work through this like in sections per week like I have been. I ended up getting, actually, I say like I have been, but that's totally not fair. I have been working through this a little bit faster than I ever thought I would, especially as I got into the second half of this book. So do it at your own pace and then hit play on the next video when you're ready. Don't feel pressured. You can come back to it, you can pause it, do something else, come back. I will say that this did gel the most by sticking with it and not too many interruptions because I think I would have really lost some of the momentum of this experience if I had taken too many breaks. But go at your pace for sure. And I hope I didn't just contradict myself, but you know what I mean, I hope. So this section for me, putting it all together, was kind of a breath of fresh air to come back to a place where I could just go back to taking all of the information I'd gotten from the first like 3/4 of the book and actually get out my cards, play with the idea of doing readings and putting together a story, putting together a narrative, the way that I would read typically with a Rider-Waite-Smith style deck. So this part was really nice for me to get back into sort of familiar territory. There is some interesting approaches that he presents in this section of the book where he talks about using like a 9-card spread and doing the first row as a theme and then using the second 2 rows as sort of a validation of that theme and other different ways of sort of looking at 9-card spreads. That was interesting to me. It doesn't necessarily jive perfectly with the way that I read, and I'm okay with that. I also really liked the idea. This is such a simple concept, but I found it really, really useful and familiar because I actually read Lenormand as well. I know it's properly pronounced Lenormand. It's like a French term, and I'm the worst at massacring it. It's a hard habit to break. But anyways, because I'm talking with my hands, can you see? Talking with my hands. Anyway, because of my experience with Lenormand, I'm used to this idea of word, 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 or of putting a linear narrative together, and that's sort of the theory he's talking about here. And it's very simple. First this happens, then this happens, and then this happens, as one way of putting together 3 cards across and creating a full narrative concept. That makes total sense in my brain, so I really enjoyed this exercise. He gave us some sample cards and question. And while his answers were much longer than mine, I didn't even get to this page. I did it all on the previous page. I did find it useful. I just dropped my bookmark. I did find it useful, and it is more similar to the way that I read, so I really liked that section. And moving into 9.1 story time, similar. We're looking at the same exercise, but by drawing our own cards, which, again, I really enjoyed that section. I found it really, really good. The only thing I really struggled with is timing questions, which he does also address elsewhere in this book. I hate timing questions. I think it's asking too much of the tarot, which for me is a very psychological, emotional, spiritual tool to give you like a date. Something's going to happen. And he does address that. If not, is it in this section? I think it is in this section. And if not, then it's after this. But I'm not a big fan of timing questions, so a couple of these questions I kind of was like, ew, no. So I got through that, and that was good. And then he looked at narratives and longer spreads, and this was also interesting. Back to the 9-card spread, though, and to be honest, it's still not my favorite. I would rather go to a contextual spread where positions have meanings. This is the way I was brought up in tarot. It's the way that I enjoy reading, and so this starts to lose me a little bit. Funnily enough, I get this with Lenormand. But Lenormand has less depth to it. I don't know if that's a fair thing to say, but Lenormand is a system of divination that is much more succinct. than tarot is. Even Marseille tarot is. And so this to me just feels overwhelming with tarot. For me personally, I prefer, if I'm going to do a 9-card spread, I'm going to know what those positions mean. That's me personally. Everybody's going to have their own take on this. Some people are going to love this, I guarantee it. Some people are going to see these 9-card spreads and be like, yes, I finally get it. Like, I can draw all these connections in all these different ways between the cards, and people are going to love it. I'm not one of those people. I like context, in the sense that I like to have positions that I've either thought through and pre-planned, or, you know, I really enjoy that. So I did miss that in this section, but I did a whole bunch of notes, and I did do some 9-card spreads and play with what that looks like for me. And so yes, he does in this section address yes, no questions, and I did also play with that a bit. I created some rules for myself where if it was a card I perceive as positive, then it was a yes. If it was a card I perceive as negative, it was a no. And then there were certain cards that I would consider neutral, and those wouldn't influence it one way or another. So I would pull 3 cards. This is a section where it's basically like if somebody asks you a yes or no question, how do you arrive at the answer? Excuse me. And again, this is not an area, this is not a way I would typically read. So I did this for the purpose, like for the purposes of finishing this exercise, but this is not something I would see myself answering this way in real life, if that makes sense. I would use other forms of divination for yeses or nos, like pendulums or rune castings, or I don't know. I feel like there'd be different systems I'd go to. But that being said, it was kind of fun to play with the idea. And so I did several of these 3-card spreads to get yeses or nos. It was very simple and quick for me to go through this section. So that worked out great for me. And he does, here it is, he does get into timing questions and sort of defining how you feel about timing questions. And the one key question here is that, do you feel, he actually puts it in here and I answer it. Where is it? Yes. In activity, oh, it's just near the end. So in the end of this chapter, he actually asks the question, how specific do I believe I can get when answering timing questions? My answer, not very. I put, you can say things like soon or not for a long time. Like, these are the kinds of general feelings I can get from tarot readings typically. And then the next question is, am I interested in conditional answers, or do I prefer to attempt more specific calendar timing? I am a hard no on calendar timing. I am a hard yes on conditional. And what that means is that conditional is like, when these particular conditions are met, this is when this particular thing might happen. And that comes up for me a lot when I give love readings or relationship readings. It's like, yes, you will you will meet the person you're meant to meet when XYZ lines up. That sort of thing is the closest I've gotten to a timing related answer. So that was how I ended up in that section. And now, let's see, I think the last thing here was, oh yes, the interlude on doubt. And a lot of this is about confidence and on whether you feel prepared to answer questions. And I think it's a worthwhile read. I'm long past this point in my own tarot reading practice. I know when I feel comfortable, and when I don't, there's usually a really valid reason for it. Moving on, though, here's what we're going to be doing next week. We're going to be finishing the book. Next week we're finishing the book. I'm so excited to have actually worked my way through an entire tarot book. It's been a while since I could say that. Lesson 10 is about, where did it go? Does it say putting it all together? No. Lesson 10 says permission. So this is a section that I think you'll enjoy. So definitely work through lesson 10 this next week, or however long it takes until you get ready to press play on the next video. And then there's a final interlude, which is a few more thoughts on elements. And then you hit the appendix, which you are more than welcome to flip through, peruse at your own leisure. Leisure? How do you say that? Somebody tell me how you say leisure or leisure down below. I'm curious. Maybe there's a difference between UK and US or Canada. I don't know. I'm curious. Anyway, I will see you all again in the next video. Talk to you later. Bye!